In the village of Oloye, everyone knew Baba Shaki. Not because he was important, but because he was impossible to ignore. He walked like the ground was whispering secrets only he could hear, head tilted, shoulders twitching, lips moving as though mid-argument with the air. He greeted trees before greeting people and apologized to stones when he kicked them by mistake. The villagers said his mind had missed one turning on the road to sense. They weren't afraid of him. Fear requires respect. Baba Shaki was given something worse, familiar pity. Children laughed and followed him. Adults chuckled and shook their heads. The chief liked to say, "Every village has one person who absorbs the madness so the rest of us can stay normal." Baba Shaki had become useful that way, a shared joke, a reminder of how sane everyone else was. Baba lived alone in a shack of bent zinc near the riverbank, where red ants marched like soldiers with urgent business. He talked to them often, crouching for long conversations no one bothered to overhear. What the villagers never noticed was this: Baba Shaki laughed the least in Oloye, and whenever the river grew quiet, too quiet, he stopped shaking altogether. Oloye was not a cruel village. That was the problem. It was comfortable in its goodness. People greeted one another in the mornings, shared salt in times of shortage, and gathered in the square whenever there was news worth hearing. They believed this made them kind, so when they laughed at Baba Shaki, it felt harmless, almost generous. After all, they fed him when there was excess food and allowed him to wander without complaint. In their minds, tolerance was the same thing as respect. The chief often pointed to Baba as proof of the village's good heart. "We do not chase him away," he would say proudly. "We let him speak his nonsense. Other villages would have beaten him." The people nodded, satisfied. It never occurred to them that kindness done from a position of superiority is only politeness wearing a mask. Baba Shaki noticed everything. He noticed how laughter changed when people felt watched. He noticed how the river sounded different in the evenings. And most of all, he noticed how the ants behaved when something unseen was coming. When they began carrying their eggs uphill toward the old baobab, Baba stopped talking to the wind and started listening to it. Baba Shaki earned his name long before anyone could remember why. He shook when he walked, not from sickness, but as if the ground beneath him whispered secrets too loudly. He paused mid-step to apologize to stones. He shushed trees when the wind grew restless. Children followed him for entertainment, daring one another to stand close enough to hear what madness would fall out of his mouth next. Yet Baba was not loud. That was the strange thing. He rarely shouted or begged. He spoke softly, like someone afraid of interrupting the world. When he laughed, it was never at people, but at thoughts only he could hear. And when the village slept, Baba sat by the riverbank, watching ants march in lines that meant more to him than words. The villagers decided long ago what Baba was: harmless, broken, amusing. Once a person is named, no one listens to what they say anymore. They listen only to how foolish it sounds coming from that mouth. The bridge arrived with noise. Trucks groaned under the weight of cement. Men from the city shouted instructions in accents too fast for Oloye's ears. For months, the river was insulted, poked, drilled, and forced to hold concrete pillars in its belly. When it was done, the bridge stood straight and gray, shining like proof that Oloye was finally important. The chief declared it a miracle. "No more canoes," he announced. "No more waiting for dry season. The bridge would lead directly to the market town. Money would flow. Respect would follow." The people touched the concrete as if it were sacred. Only Baba Shaki avoided it. He circled the bridge, never stepping on it. When asked why, he muttered, "It's still listening. It hasn't decided yet." The youths laughed. Even the elders smiled. How could a bridge decide anything?
The Yam Festival was chosen to christen the bridge. It made sense. New harvest, new road, new future. Pots boiled, palm wine flowed freely. A borrowed sound system was dragged to the riverbank, and the generator coughed like an old smoker before roaring to life. Drums were placed right at the bridge's mouth so the sound could bounce proudly across the water. Dancers rehearsed. The chief wore his heaviest agbada, thick with embroidery, thick with confidence. The village had never looked better. Baba Shaki arrived without invitation, without bowl, without hunger. He went straight to the chief, tugged lightly at his sleeve, and whispered, "The ants have moved their eggs to the high baobab. The river is holding its breath." The chief laughed, not a cruel laugh, worse, a comfortable one. "Listen to our ant professor," he boomed. "Today even insects fear progress." The crowd erupted. One boy bent low, wobbling his knees, imitating Baba's shaky walk. Another began clicking sounds like ants. Soon a chant rose, playful and sharp at the edges. "Baba shakes, ask the ants if we should dance." Baba said nothing more. He stepped back. He climbed the small hill near the old baobab and sat where he could see both the bridge and the river reeds. He folded his hands and waited. As the drums began, the sun dipped low, staining the river copper. Boom, boom, boom. The bridge answered each beat with a dull echo. The dancers cheered. Baba watched the reeds. They were not swaying, they were trembling. Upstream, the water thickened, turning the color of stirred clay. A low hum rose beneath the celebration, like bees trapped in stone. The river was no longer holding its breath. The chief climbed the bridge to give his speech. That was when the music died. Not quietly, but violently. A roar swallowed the drums whole. The flood burst into the valley, dragging trees, rocks, and the anger of the mountains with it. The bridge cracked, not snapped, but peeled. Concrete split like cloth. People ran, palm wine spilled, pride drowned faster than feet could move. The chief was yanked off the bridge with his agbada, losing his slippers to the river's mouth. When the water withdrew, the bridge was gone. No one died, that was the mercy, but the silence afterward was heavier than any flood. The market road was broken. The sound system lay tangled in reeds miles away. The village smelled of mud and shame. They found Baba Shaki by the riverbank, helping ants cross a puddle using a leaf. "Why speak of ants and holding breath?" the chief asked quietly. "If you had said flood from the mountains, we would have listened." Baba Shaki did not look up. "I told you the house was falling," he said softly. "You laughed at how I described the ceiling." Then he added, "Does truth need to be pretty before you believe it?" Oloye rebuilt slowly. They still laughed, Baba still shook, but now every morning the youths checked the ants. When the ants climbed, the drums stayed silent. They learned something simple and expensive. A warning does not need to sound wise to be true. The people of Oloye did not suffer because Baba Shakes was mad. They suffered because they were comfortable. They believed wisdom must arrive dressed properly, spoken clearly, and delivered by someone respectable. When truth came limping, shaking, and speaking in riddles, they laughed instead of listening. They mocked not out of cruelty, but out of pride. And pride is often the loudest form of ignorance. This story reminds us that truth does not ask for permission to be believed. It does not wait to sound intelligent. Sometimes it whispers through the mouth we have already dismissed. And by the time we demand clearer words, the river has already answered. Every story leaves an echo, a whisper of truth waiting to be found. If this tale spoke to you, share it with someone who is thirsty for hope. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories where ancient tales carry living lessons. This is Echoes of Folk Tales, ancient tales, living lessons. Shalom.